Okay. Okay. All right. Real quick here. All right. Real quick. Not even on the right route. All right. Real quick here. Practice guide. Have them out. I'm gonna give you 1 minute to get this out, get ready to go, make some names on it. We're gonna try to finish it up today. We have to go pretty quick, so we're not gonna spend a lot of time on certain problems. We need to spend a lot more time on the last two today. Make sure you're not into your proofs. But I'll give you 1 quick minute here to get everything.
I don't think so.
Anything wrong with the tiger or the little
I know I'm afraid. You're not wrong.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's get here. All right. Okay. All right. Real quick, if you're paying attention up here, on the practice guide, I kind of warned you yesterday words that that you could have on the test. So I'm going to go through the words one more time. Words you should study. Okay. Instead of inductive, probably deductive. Instead of contrapositive, maybe inverse or converse. Complementary, maybe supplementary. Postulate, maybe theorem instead. For polyhedron, it could be a conic or a polygon. You should look at those definitions. For negation, I might put the word biconditional. Vertical angles, I might put linear pair. Bless you. For hypothesis, I might put conclusion. Conjunction, I might put disjunction. 2 words are probably not going to be used out of the word bank, so be careful of that. But those are words you probably should study. Hint, 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 hint. Okay. Number 2 and 3, you need the formulas. You can see them on the board. Here it is. Here's the monster, the browns, the formulas you get. Okay, they're going to be up there. They're staying there like that and through tomorrow. Okay, if you don't know what they mean, I don't know how you went through that homework that we had on doing area and volume and perimeter. These are the formulas you have to use. The only ones I'm really worried about is on the pyramid. They have an H and an L. L is the slanted line, the line that's going right down the middle of one of the sides of the pyramid that's 90 degrees. H is how tall the pyramid is. It's really hard to see a 3-dimensional picture. The H is going like if you had a pyramid in the middle, standing in the middle of the pyramid and going straight up. That's what H is. So that applies. The B and the P, capital letters, the key is over there in the corner. P is the perimeter of the base. P is the area of the base. So that's what it means when it's capital versus the other ones. Everything else, you just use the letters. But they're all going to be up there. There's pi symbols up there. You just have to be able to read it. If you're that person that's like, God, I can't see that. Lights will obviously be on, but if you can't see that from where you're sitting, you better scoot your butt closer to the marker board, because you know the desks are going to be facing this way. Just walk in and sit so you can see them. Okay? So don't pull that thing like, I can't see them. They're right there. Question?
At the end of class, can you picture that?
Yeah, it's in your book, by the way. It's page 58 and page 69. So, we warned you. It's the exact thing. I just copied them, letter for letter. But yeah, you get the picture of one. Okay, we're good? Okay, you need those for those. And you have to identify what shape it is. So if it's a prism or a pyramid, you have to tell me what specific one it is. Okay? And the polygons too, you have to tell me what specific shape. Everyone knows that. Okay? Alright. 4 and 5, remember, it's a sequence. You have to find the next missing blank and the next 2 after it. So in theory, on number 4 and 5, you're finding 3 numbers. The one in the blank and the next 2. It says that in the directions. Okay? 6 and 7, we finished with 6 yesterday. We're picking up with 7 right now, and we're moving our way to the end. You ready to go?
Yes.
Let's go. All right, here we go. This one, what does this little symbol mean?
Yeah.
Or. Okay, it's an or. Now, what this means, since it's an or, one or the other has to be true. If one of them's true, we're golden. It's a true statement. So it's an or problem. Now, what does this little squiggly thing mean? Yeah, it means the word not or negation. It's a negation of Q. It literally is putting the word not, I don't know if it was in air quotes, putting the word not in that sentence. So up here, eventually when we go back to read the sentences, we're gonna come back to what that little squiggle means, and we're gonna throw the word not into that sentence, and then try to see if it's true or false. Okay, that's what we're gonna look at later. But let's do the table first. The table will require 4 columns. Why it's gonna take 4 columns is because you're gonna have a column for the Q, you're gonna have a column for R, you're gonna have a column for not Q. Anytime you negate, they have to have their own column. And then you're gonna have the last column, which is the not Q or R column. There you go. So that's why I know there's 4. Now, if I was comparing 3 different sentences like P, Q, and R, then I'd have, you know, a bunch of columns and a bunch of rows. But this is the problem that we have. Okay, so let's set up the trues and falses for the first part. Q and R, what are all the combinations? Bless you.
T, 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 F, F, T, F, F.
Jeez, okay. T, 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 F, F, T, and F, F. Holy fuck. Okay, there you go. So those are all the combinations of true and falses you could get. Now, to get to that next column, this not Q column, all you have to do is just change the Q column's answers to all the opposites. So what are the opposites of these, or of this column?
False.
Okay, good. False, false, true, true. Good. That is the complete opposite of what you have here. Does that make sense? Like that's what a negation means. You just do the opposite of Q. Okay, so now that we have these set up, the final column is comparing these two, R and not Q. Now, why I'm comparing those two, because that's what's written right here. That's how I know which columns to look at. And we're doing the word or. You gotta know that. So it's an or problem. So that means one or the other had to be true. If one of them's true, we have a true in the last column. So, are one of these true? Yes. Are one of these true? No. Are one of these true? Yes. And one of these? Yes. So, we kind of already knew that. The word or, more or less, like percentages wise, if it's an or problem, it's more likely to be true. So, in fact, you're actually seeing it here, that on this problem, 3 out of 4 chances it was going to be true. That's 75% that it was going to be true, right? There's 3 out of 4. 1 chance out of 4 that's going to be false. That's 25%. So I'm betting on this sentence is probably true if I'm a betting man. Now, let's actually go figure out what it is. So let's go read the sentences, then we can come back to see if it's true or false. Okay, so let's go back to the sentences. We have to go to the negation of the R or of the Q column. So we're going to negate Q. So that means we're going to throw the word not in there. So there are not 30 days in June. Is that true or false?
True.
Not 30 days in June? That's false. That's false. There is 30 days in June, by the way. So there are not 30 days in June. That's throwing the word not in there. All right. So then we have the word or. Now, our sentence. There are 3,600 seconds in an hour. That's true. We had that one yesterday. So knowing that the Q is false. When the Q is false, it's got to be one of these true, one of those two. The R is true. This is the sentence it is. This is it. So the final answer is true. So my final answer is true. We identified which row it was. And the reason why it's true is one or the other. Well, if one of them is true, it's good.
So how do you figure out what row it is?
By looking at whatever these two sentences were. So you read the sentence, and you told me if it's true or false, you label those here, and go over, so like the Q here is a false, so the not, or I should say not Q is false, it's gotta be one of these two sentences, it's gotta be one of these two rows. And then the idea is the R was true, so it had to be this one. This is true, that one's false. Like that's how I know which row, you're just trying to pick out which one has those values. It's only gonna be one of the rows that will work. That was good. Any other questions? That's a really good question. Yes?
How do you know when it's not going to be 8 columns now?
8 columns is when they have 3 sentences. Like when you have whatever I give you here, it says like P and Q and R. When it's like P, Q, and R, and you have 3 things, that's when it's like 8 rows deep. I'm going to let you know this right now. The problem you have in number 7, because number 6 is supposed to be easy. Number 7, I'm going to just have 2 sentences like this, so you know it's only going to be 4 rows, but it could have negations, So you might have a bunch of columns though, so there might be negations off. Okay, does that make sense? Like what I can throw at you? So it'll be something very similar to this, but it might have negations everywhere. Okay, and it'll be a new sentence, obviously. Okay, we're good with 7 now? That was good, good question. All right, let's go to the next one, 8. 8 and 9, I should say.
Fall asleep.
All right. Okay, so for number 8 or 9, I will do one of these for you. Do you want number 8 or number 9? Okay.
8.
Raise your hand if you want 8. Raise your hand if you want 9. We're doing 9. Okay, here we go. Sorry for those who wanted 8. All right, so we're doing number 9. All we have to do on this problem is first identify what part's the hypothesis, which part's the conclusion. That should be easy. The if part, that's the hypothesis. This is how I do it on my test. That's the hypothesis. The part that follows the then, that's your conclusion. Okay, there's 2 easy points. Now we have to tell me if it's true or false, the sentence. If it's false, you have to give me a counterexample. Like give me an example, picture, some type of math, or just some different example. I'll come up with one here in a minute. Now, if your quadrilateral has 4 right angles, so think of a picture that has 4 right angles in it, then what they're saying is it has to be a square. Does it have to be a square? No. What shape could it be?
Rectangle.
There, perfect. So you can say false, and what I would do, I would draw a rectangle like that. That is a perfect counterexample. If you want to write a rectangle in there, that's fine. Because it doesn't have to be square. There could be 2 walls that are longer to make it a rectangle. That's a perfect counterexample. I was thinking of like an example in my head was like, if I said for the sentence, you know, because always one of the sentences is kind of like just kind of random, and then one's usually mathematical. Like if I said, your animal has spots, then it has to be a Dalmatian. Well, that's false. It could be a leopard. It could be a frog. Frogs have spots. It could be anything else. It could be a cow for all I care. It's just your counterexample has to make sure that this is true. Whatever picture you draw, or whatever math, or whatever animal, or whatever you pick, the hypothesis has to be true. It has to follow that. So my picture had to have right angles. But the false was that it had to be their conclusion. So that's what it's false. If it's true, it's true. Like number 8, I think that's true. You're in Chicago, you're probably in Illinois, just saying. So you might just have to write true and move on to the next one. I won't try to pick something so obscure that you're gonna have to do like research, because you don't have time. You won't have a computer in front of you. So it'll have to be something you can do quickly in your head and figure out if it's true or false. Okay, any questions with 8 or 9? Oh. Perfect, let's go on to number 10 and 11. I think it's number 10. I think this is the sentences. Somebody asked me a question on this yesterday. Where are we going to have to write a problem with inverse, converse, and contrapositive? Yes, here it is. There it is. Okay, let's walk through this. You have to write on this problem for 10. You don't have to do true and false. Notice that. You just have to write the 3 sentences. This is to do this stuff. It was your page 111 stuff. Okay. Same with that last problem, number 8 and 9. That was the page 111. You had to tell me counterexamples or identify hypothesis conclusions. Okay, so this is my sentence. We're going to go through and we're going to write the 3 examples down. So what I'm going to do first, and then you have to do this on your test. You have to first identify which sentence you're going to write down first. So I'm going to write the inverse first. Then I'm going to go after the converse. Then I'm going to write the contrapositive. And yes, you do have to label which one's which. Because if you write the wrong sentence, I count it wrong. If you don't label it, I count it wrong. You don't know which one's which. Question?
For my homework and everything, I always put like inverse for I and B and stuff like that.
Okay,
instead of writing it all out, that's fine.
If you just like, yeah, if you just like abbreviate, you're good. As long as I know, you can't write CON though. Because that looks like
CON for Converse and then contra for contra.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfect. See, like that tells me you know which sentence is which. That's all I care about.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm good with that. All right, so inverse, converse, contrapositive. So let's walk through the 3 so you know the differences if you don't remember. The inverse is when you take this sentence and you throw the word not in there. I throw the word not in both the front and the back. And all you have to do is make sure that it makes grammatical or logical sense when you write it. I'm not an English thing, so just write a sentence that does make sense though. So here's my example for the inverse. If it does not snow today. If it does not snow. we will have school. That is the negation of what they said. They said if it snows, then school will be canceled. I said if it doesn't snow, then we will have school. That's like the opposite meaning. If you're that person that goes, okay, it does not snow, then we will not cancel school, that's fine. That's fine. Maybe that's the way you saw it. You can run it that way. I just said we'll have school as opposed to not canceling. Make sense? Like it's the opposite meaning of it? Okay. Let's go to the next one. So that's an inverse. You're just negating the original problem. The converse is you switch the sentence around, the original sentence. Not the negation, not the inverse, but you're going to switch the original sentence around. So the converse is if we cancel school, then it is snowing today. And again, you can paraphrase, you don't have to use exact wording that the sentence had, you can like make it logical and make it, so it makes grammatical sense. So, but again, notice, if we switch the sentence around, if we cancel school, then it is snowing, that type of thing. Contrapositive, the last sentence, is where you take the converse, the sentence you just wrote in green there, the converse, and throw the word not in there. So if we do not cancel school, or if we have school, I don't know how you write it. If we do not cancel school, then it is not snowing. I don't know how you want to write that, but you have to introduce the not into that converse sentence, into both parts. Does that make sense? Which ones are paired together? Inverse is the negation of the original sentence. The converse and contrapositives are opposites of each other. How I remember that, like which ones are paired together, it's the first letters. Like these two are paired together. They're the same sentence, just one has the word not in there. That's how I remember it. Okay, do we see the three sentences? Do you understand how the sentences work from the original? Again, I'll just give you an easy sentence you just rewrite. You don't have to tell me true and false or any crazy thing like that. Just write your sentences and move on. I want to make sure that you understand what the sentences say. And yes, you do have to label. If you don't label, I count them wrong instantly. You don't know which one's which. You just got lucky. Okay, we're good? All right, let's spend the most time today on problem 11 and 12. Now, I will kind of warn you on this number 11 on your practice guide. I went overkill. I'll explain my rationale why I picked this problem. This one went overboard.
Yeah, it did.
It did. The reason why I picked 11 is because we just introduced expressions on Monday this week. I thought it was probably better to have a problem like this on number 11 where we practice expressions and then you had to solve the equation later. Okay? 12 is just an expression, it's normal. But this 11 is way overkill compared to what I would put on the test. And I'll explain what I would put on the test after I'm done with this one. I'm letting you know this one's overkill. Like, just prepare yourself. It's a lot of stuff. Okay. All right, you guys ready for 11? The craziness that's about to ensue here?
No. Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm not joking. Like, there's a lot of steps that are not necessary that I'm going to put on the test here. I made a problem that has to use almost every single property in the property.
I know.
Yeah.
Why am I here?
The test is very short and sweet. Okay, all right. Hey, we ready? Now again, to ease your stress level, this is not the problem I'm putting on the test. This is just one that we needed to show practice. The one on the test is significantly easier than this one. Okay, I will tell you what type of problem I'm going to put in. Okay, you ready to go? I want to do the first half and we're going to stop. Because once we're done with the first half of this problem, yes, I said half of it, you need to see how it's going to compare to number 12. Okay, so that's why this is important. And I do want you to write these all down. If you run out of space, we'll just put it on the back page. Okay? All right, so here we go. First step. I know it's going to seem stupid. You do have to introduce the 1 in front of the x before I start. That's called the multiplicative identity, where you multiply by 1. You do have to introduce a number in front of variables because we are going to have to multiply it on later. That's not necessarily like the step you have to do on every problem, it's just on this one I noticed there wasn't a number in front of the X yet. So I introduced the 1. I think we have to do the same on number 12, I think you have to introduce a 1 in front of the X as well. So that is not gonna be the exact same on the test, you might not have to do that stuff. Alright, but next, I'm gonna distribute the 4. Usually on an equation problem they don't have this, I put this in here so we get some more practice with it. So you distribute the 4, so 4 times the 1x, and 4 times the 3, and I have the plus 5, and I have the 24. Okay, that is called distribution. Now this is, all the steps I'm doing right now are a normal expression. I'm not even solving yet. I'm just trying to simplify that left side so it's simpler looking. So I'm not even gonna touch the 24 for a long time here. Okay, so distribution, next, I need to switch the parentheses around. So I need to move the parentheses around the 4 and the 1. I need to move the parentheses around the 4 and the 3. Yep, and the 5x stays out, and that is the associative. Every time you do distribution, you should do the associative right after it, move the parentheses around. Again, all these steps are normal for an expression, like the problem number 12. Okay, now I'm gonna do the math. Now this is 2 separate properties, but I'm gonna do them in once. I know that seems like I'm cheating, but I'm just gonna shorten this up. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Those are 2 different properties I just did. The reason why they're 2 different properties, taking a number times 1 is an actual identity, you multiply by 1, but taking in just random numbers multiplied together are a substitution. So what I just did here, I did a multiplicative identity, where I multiplied by the number 1 on the 4, and I did normal substitution, and yes, I'm putting these all in one step. That is not normal. Usually they're just random numbers. Like 4 times 17. Maybe that's just a random number here, so that would be substitution. Okay, next, I need to move things around. So I'm gonna move the 4x and the 5x next to each other. That's called commutative. Commutative property, where I move things around so they can see each other. Now I can factor out the x. So I can actually add the 4 and the 5 together. That is called factoring, or reverse distribution. I like to call it factoring. It is also called reverse distribution. Now I can add those together. 4 plus 5 is 9. And that's where the book would differ. They would always like you to keep the parentheses, so I just get rid of them. 4 plus 5 is 9. That's substitution. Now I'm going to stop here. This is halfway. You're thinking, oh my God, are you kidding me? I made this problem up so I had every property known to man in it. That's not going to be the case in your test. Okay, what you just did, those 6 properties other than the first one, that cheating one, those 6 properties are the exact properties you're going to have to do on problem number 12, and that problem would be done. So, if you want to right now, write those 6 properties, technically 7, the top one there, the cheating one, you can write those 6 properties down for number 12, and you have all the properties in the right order, and they're already done, okay? Does that make sense for what you're gonna do on number 12? Because 12 is an expression. These are the properties you do for an expression in order, all 6 of them. You distribute, you associate, you sub, you move things around, you factor parts, and then you sub again. That's how you do an expression. I haven't even started solving this thing yet. It will take me another bunch of lines to solve this thing. Now you're thinking, okay, Ward, you can't do that to me on the test. No, what I would give you on the test where number 11 sits, problem number 11. This is what I would give you, right here. And I think, Ward, why would you do all that on this practice guide but not do that on the test? Because we needed more practice doing problem number 12. Because it was the first day seeing it was Monday. So you needed to see how to do expressions. Okay, from here on out, I'm gonna do this problem over here. Okay, so we did all the work already here. This is what your problem would look like on number 11 for the test. To do this problem, to get rid of the 12 and get rid of the 9, it will take 4 lines of work to get rid of the number 12. It will take 4 lines of work to get rid of the number 9. So this problem will take 8 steps. That's what a normal equation looks like. That is stupid. That takes a lot more. That took 14 total. But those properties, I thought it was important that you solve those properties because that's the properties you have to use in number 12. These properties to solve the rest of this thing out are the normal properties we do, and it's these 4, by the way. These are the 4 we're going to do in order to get rid of 12. these are the 4 in order that we're gonna do to get rid of the 9. That's your properties. Now, you have the property sheets. So if you're that person that's already lost your property sheet, you better get one or find it or reprint it off my website because you're gonna need this for test. Remember, don't add anything to it. All right, I'm gonna leave those right there for right now. These are my order, how I'm gonna get rid of the 12. So on the 12, this is what you'd have to do first. I'd have to add 12 to both sides. What property name is that? Addition,
Property of equality.
property of equality, perfect. Add property equality. Prop of equality. All right, so we know it's a property equality first, we add it, duh. Moving on. The next property we're gonna have to do is an inverse. Well, the inverse is taking negative 12 plus 12 and making 0. There's 2 types of inverses. Which inverse makes 0? Look at your property sheet. Which inverse makes 0? Nope, that's an identity. I'm doing the inverses. Property of opposites. You're already ahead of me. Whoever said the identity, that you're 1 step ahead of me. Prop of op. These are the inverses. It's property number 5 in your property sheets. Property of opposites. There's only 2 inverses. Property of op makes 0. Now, who said the other identity? That's the next line. Because we're gonna add the 0 and the 9 together to make 9x. That is the add identity. Because we're adding 0 now. Because again, you do an inverse, then we do the identity, which we're doing add identity because you added 0. Done. And the last step, we do a sub. 9x equals 24 plus 12, that's 36. That's the sub. You see how it took those 4 properties in that exact order to get rid of the 12. It'll take you those 4 properties again in that order, just slight name changes, to get rid of the 9 now. In fact, you're gonna have to do that part by yourself. You're gonna get rid of the 9 now. You know your properties in order, you just have to do it now. So, do that right now. Take a minute or 2. Simplify that, the rest of that down by yourself. You know your 4 properties in order. As you're doing that, I'm gonna move on to number 12, but I'll give you a couple minutes here to write that down. Again, I'll take you 4 steps, get rid of the 9. Everyone in the room should be able to get the right math done. Maybe the property names elude you, but you should get the math correct. That's the same with like number 12. If all those fails, you should be able to do at least the math. Because if you can't do the math, there's no hope for you. You're in the wrong class. You should have been math for 1 or more. So the math shouldn't be the hard part. The property names, yeah, I can see that's tough. All right, now, I'm gonna move on to 12. I know I gave you only a minute or 2 to do that. Okay, number 12. You know how I had those properties earlier that I wrote on the board? Those are the properties that are in the same order for number 12. This is how you do an expression. In fact, I just left them up there. The first step, I had to introduce the 1. You don't always have to do that, by the way, but I had to do it on mine because there was a number for the x. The second step, I have to distribute. Then I have to do associative. Then I have to do a sub, or multi-identity eventually. I have to commute by moving things around. I have to factor the x out, and then I'll have to sub again. Like, it's in the same order. So if you know how to do an expression, the 6 properties are in order. Usually the only one that would be different, like I wouldn't have to do multi-identity every time. This probably did because I didn't have a number. So those are like your 6 properties in order. So distribution. So if I'm going through this insanely fast, I would distribute the 2 over the 1x and the 7. The 9 and the 9x and the 10 don't get it. Why don't the 9 and the 10 get the 2? Yeah, they're not in the parentheses, so they don't get the 2. That's distribution. Next, I move the parenthesis around. So if I move the parenthesis on this problem, I'm going to move it around the 2 and the 1. And I'll move it around the 2 and the 7. Now I'm going to do the math. What's 2 times 1? 2. 2 times 7? 14, 9x plus 10, alright, boom, there's the multi-identity or sub, whatever you want to call it. Next, I need to move things around. Where do you want to move things? Yep, 9x and 2x out front. 14 and 10 in the back. Okay, I'll go with that. Again, it doesn't matter where you put them, you just gotta group them up. That's commutative, moving things around, factoring out the x. I'm gonna take the x out. That's factoring. Taking out an x, so I can actually add. You know, last step, let's substitute. What do we get? 1x. Boom, done. You should get the math right. The math shouldn't be the problem. The problem might be you remember your property names. If you can memorize those 6 properties in order, you're golden. If you can memorize these 4 in order, you're golden. Like, that's how you do them. If all else fails, just at least get the math done. Do the math correctly. All right, questions, comments, concerns? All right, test is tomorrow. Hopefully the videos will be viewable. YouTube went down yesterday, like for a very, very long time. Like,
It was only like an hour.
for me, it was out way longer.
Mine was out for an hour.
Mine went out at after school
Wait,
about
sad.
5 o'clock, and it didn't come up until midnight last night.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought it was my computer at first. I'm like, because I was uploading all this film, and so I was uploading, and I was messing around, and then on my website, I was gonna attach it, and it wasn't attaching. I was like, oh, that's weird. So I went back to YouTube, and it was giving me just 505 error.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, okay. I tried to log out, log back in. It wouldn't show me anything on YouTube. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's Safari. So I went to Chrome, logged in, nothing. I'm like, what is going on? And I went to my website thinking, okay, I went back to an old video that I posted like a week ago. That video's gone too. I'm like, oh, YouTube's out. And it didn't come back for me until almost a minute.
Yeah, I was upset.
And the worst part was I was uploading all the film yesterday. I'm up to 1 or 2 altogether. Every day. So, I don't think it'll work.
I had to watch a movie. I watched a DVD.
I just thought it was like a computer, so I put on Netflix and
You watched really long time in the truck. Yeah, I guess I
Coffee and cappuccino.
not that bad.
I was gonna say. Oh my gosh, my picture's small. Why?
And don't forget your phones.
Do you know what the books say? Oh.
Lord, you owe me a practice yet? And then page 82, 84, 87. That was for last Thursday or Tuesday. That one hasn't been turned. These Chromebook for sure. No, yeah, I was saying. Hey, you might need your books today, make sure.
I'm gonna take the gamble. I'm gonna take the gamble. What can we do?
Well, yeah.
Well, the diary bring this book. They're old folders. Hey, tell Dyer in the hall to get his book. Dyer, we have to go get a book. Hey, Fred. We never booked. Were you here yesterday or not? Oh. Really? I was running yesterday.
Four.
I see him from here. Hey Fred, have you got talked to at all? You got talked to at all? About the fight? No, none of us have. You just told people that he went to Bradley and said like he got that we beat the crap out of him when the girl punched him and we hold him.
You guys did.
That's why he has a hold a black eye or something. He held the guy and beat him.
What if you? No. He's saying that if you guys did, if you would.
So who are you? You're never school here. Who are you?
Oh, yeah. You know.
He wants to go over here. Yeah.
I don't know why I had that, but anyways.
Where's it even at?
I don't know.
Show
You
me.
never test today, because that's kind of bad.
Because he's Florida.
Why the fuck
You're
you
the
got
same
pictures?
I don't know. It popped up though.
Oh, so you guys all up there that one day after it was like 12:30 this was. Yeah. Yeah.
That was 2 years ago.
Look how small.
I know.
Okay. Okay, you need your notes out, please. We have a couple things we're going to talk about. So have your notes out.